Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you're here. Mwah. I'm not crazy, don't worry. I'm Aline, and I help people open their minds and their heart. So welcome. Today we're going to talk about intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts. Everyone has them today. I don't think there's one person without an intrusive thought. Welcome to the club. I think everyone is in this club. I also want to say we're going to talk about what are intrusive thoughts, the types of intrusive thoughts, and I'm going to share 5 unique tips to deal with intrusive thoughts and ways for you to help and deal with intrusive thoughts. I want to stress this as a disclaimer that this conversation is between me and you, of me sharing my own experience from my own point of view and what has been working for me. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a psychiatrist. I have been dealing with mental health issues, I think, as everyone in this world, and I will probably make more videos about this topic. I want to emphasize this as my own experience versus not something that is like textbook, and I do think it's very important to allow for more and more people to talk about their experiences, because maybe someone out there can relate to something that you share because you've gone through that and you're not just like a therapist talking about it. With all due respect to therapists, I go to therapy. I've been going for 13 years. Make sure you watch till the end. I saved the last tip. That is a very unique one. So make sure you watch till the end. Make sure you leave in the comments anything that you like, anything that resonates with you, and something that you want to share from your own experience and from your own point of view. What are intrusive thoughts? I think we all know, but I'm gonna go through this because this is very interesting. Every day we have more than 1,000 thoughts a day. So roughly around 6,200 thoughts every day. Intrusive thoughts are thoughts that come in a repetitive way. They can be literal, like words, they can be images, they can be sounds, anything that is like a flash that emerges into your brain, kind of like a brain fart. But basically, we have so many thoughts every day of different things, of thoughts of people, things we need to do, fears, even good self-talk, But there's also those intrusive thoughts that sometimes come into our brain, and sometimes we can refer to them as like junk thoughts. The reason we kind of call them intrusive is because they leave you this feeling of a little bit uneasiness, sometimes catch you off guard, and you feel like a little bit like this is not yourself, or why am I feeling this? Why this thought is coming to my head? Usually it's something that we don't really want to think about. It's something that we don't really want. It's kind of like the junk, like you have a computer, you create a file in a software. If you have like Adobe or like a Photoshop or any other thing that you use on your computer, you create a file, and within that file, with that creation, there are other junk files added to that, which we don't sometimes see on the computer. So it's kind of like that. If we kind of take that as an analogy to the brain, where we have thoughts and then we have those junk thoughts. And sometimes those junk thoughts can kind of be more prominent and reappear in different ways and forms in a manner that we don't want. And that is something to talk about. Why we don't want those thoughts, and why do we even label them as intrusive? If we have thoughts in our brain, it's kind of like the ocean. We have waves, they just come and go, right? But we as human beings, we have this dual mentality, the duality of good and bad, because this is how our society works as well. There's good, there's bad, good and evil and all that. So as well with those thoughts, we have thoughts that are considered negative or considered stuff that we don't really want. So we try to get rid of them. But before that, we kind of grade them and judge these thoughts. And there is this grading system subconsciously in our brain that basically takes those thoughts. We take those thoughts and we grade them as good or bad, or something that we don't want. I also want to mention, before we talk about intrusive thoughts, that if you are having more of delusional thoughts, of things that are kind of detached from reality as a form of psychosis, that is something different. And we can talk about that in a separate video. And you should probably also talk to someone. But we're going to talk in this video about intrusive thoughts in a form of almost PTSD, OCD, repetition. That is kind of the type that we're going to talk about today. The delusional thoughts, the detachment of reality, and psychosis is something I will touch on, but not in this video. So I do want to give kind of that difference, because sometimes people, I'm not in your brain, so I don't know what kind of thoughts you have. So the more I clarify, it is easier for me to distinguish. So the type of intrusive thoughts can be various. There's a lot of different types of them. It could be about sexual thoughts, about different people, about people that you're not really supposed to probably be with. It could be about illnesses as a type of germophobia or hypochondria, self-doubt, self-negative talk. That is also something that can be repetitive and cyclical and very, very annoying for you to experience. Like general doubt about like, oh, did I close the stove, or did I unplug my, my machine or whatever. So you have this kind of general doubt. You can also have intrusive thoughts of recurring images and words and thoughts from past trauma and past events, which is something that is very, very common probably. And you can also have different types of thoughts about creating your own self-harm or doing something illegal or violent. Examples of that can be like, I don't know, you see someone and you're like, oh, what if I push them off the staircase? I'm not saying you do those things. We're talking about those thoughts as just thoughts, because it is very, very important to give room to those thoughts. People always shove them down the drain. I think this is the key of just starting to talk about these things. And when we start giving room to these thoughts, whatever they are, that is something that can help you heal and help you address this thing, because it's not something necessarily bad as long as you don't act on it, as long as you don't actually harm someone and you don't do anything to harm yourself as well. If you are experiencing any of these in a very, very harmful way that can harm you or others, you should probably talk to someone that is a professional. I'm not a professional. I do want to talk about my own experience. A few years ago, I have been going through some PTSD for around like 3 or 4 years, where I've been constantly having repetitive thoughts about an experience I had, and I've been always trying to kind of fight it. So it was this kind of type of thought that was because of feeling like you're kind of followed and feeling like you are watched all the time. So that was one type of experience that I had. And then recently, I've been going through different mental health issues in the last 2-3 months. Some very, very not fun, intrusive thoughts. I personally have recently experienced intrusive thoughts that have been kind of as an aftermath of a mental health issue, a psychosis, as you can say. So after that, I've been experiencing, when I have been feeling a lot better and more balanced, I have been suddenly experiencing a lot of intrusive thoughts in the form of hate, where I am not a hater. I'm actually a lover. I really love people. I'm empathetic, and I want the best for people and humanity and myself. But it was weird for me to suddenly find myself curse people, or have this thought of cursing myself, or being afraid of some sort of illness, or not really cursing, but kind of wishing ill. And there is a difference between using the word wish and having a thought, because I do not have the intent. First way to deal with intrusive thoughts, the first one is setting the right environment. You need to make sure you are in the right environment. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you detaching from your phone? Do you have a nice routine? Diet. Are you eating high vibrational foods? High vibrational foods meaning vegetables, greens, tomatoes, juice, that kind of stuff, a lot of water, versus low vibrational foods, which are carbs and rice and potatoes, and are very much kind of like gonna keep you down. You want to feel more in a higher vibrational, and you will feel a lot better and you'll feel lighter. So that's number one, setting some of these, I would say technicals. It would be more of the body. And we always say mind, body, and soul. And this is where you actually are connected to your body and giving your body what it needs, because your body is connected to the ground and it is connected to earth and is your vessel, and you need to sustain your vessel. And that includes the food and the nutrition that you are feeding. Another thing is sleep. Sleep, that you are getting enough sleep. You are having a good balanced nighttime sleep. Are you dreaming? Are you detaching from your phone before you go to sleep? Movement. Are you moving? Do you take walks? Do you run? Do you do any physical activity, workout, gym? Do you feel your body? Meaning you feel your muscles, you feel how strong your body can be. I think that's super important. And you actually, when you take out energy, your body is basically your soul, even, mind, body, soul. Your soul is going to feel a lot more alive and a lot more like out there. And you will keep a higher vibration. You'll need to take out a lot of energy so you can go out and dance, you can go out and work out and run, and be able to take out a lot of energy so you're able to sleep well and you're able to be more rested and detach yourself from the negativity and all these things that are holding you back. Another one is the sun. The sun is a natural healer. Your eyes need to be exposed, and your skin, vitamin D. Your eyes need the sun rays. Sometimes they say even take off your sunglasses so you're able to receive the sun rays and the power of the sun. So even in the winter, it is very important you go out and even take those UV rays. Sign number 2. So after we got the logistics, we need to practice detachment. We have a thought, we need to practice our logical mind. The fact that we're able to understand that not every thought is true. Not everything is true. Not everything is going to happen, and not everything is going to kind of take you down. No doubt, no sexual intrusive thoughts, no violent intrusive thoughts. Not everything is true. So you need to learn and practice. It is a practice because it takes training for you and the relationship that you have with your thoughts, because you are separate from your thoughts. And that's also a notion to have, of being separate and detached from your thoughts. So again, you are not your thoughts. But when you have a thought, you would probably need to be able to look at that thought, even kind of imagine the thought, like the Matrix, when it just kind of like passes you through. So you have this thought and you're like, okay, nice to see you, nice to meet you. Who are you? And okay, cool. You want to think that? Okay. You basically view those thoughts as just passing. So we practice not to have judgment. I think that's the key here. Practice not to have judgment. So what does that mean? Practice to be detached. To be detached is to be nonchalant, is to be basically like, I don't care. This could be good, this could be bad. Of course we want to have the good, but we are practicing detachment. So it's like the wave of the ocean. The wave is coming. We don't judge the wave. I mean, there's obviously stronger waves than other waves. It's exactly like the ocean. The ocean is our greatest teacher. The ocean is a very, very strong analogy to thoughts. That's why when I was experiencing my own intrusive thoughts, I wanted to go near the ocean. I also love the ocean. I have become re-enamored with the ocean and its powers because you understand how healing it is and the fact how it is powerful and deep, and it's like our subconscious mind. It's vast, and it's also very scary because you can get lost in the depths and in the very, very high and strong current of the waves. But the ocean, basically, you have waves come and go all the time. You never judge a wave if it's strong or if it's low. You just enjoy. You enjoy the smaller waves and you get prepared to the bigger and higher waves and the stronger ones. Sure, they can be scary as hell, but a wave is a wave. A thought is a thought. So you learn to practice detachment. So the more you can actually practice that detachment and practice just observing. Observe the thought. Let it come. Here, it's coming. Okay, cool. So you understand now that you are a separate entity from the thoughts. Sometimes, because they're in our brain, it's like, oh my God, it's in me. It's part of me. That means that I want to do bad things. It's, oh my God, why am I thinking that? Why am I feeling that? I'm not supposed to. I was taught not to. But you need to understand that just because your thoughts are in your brain, it is not you. Because who are you? You are someone completely different than your thoughts. Your thoughts are sometimes just a byproduct of something else, are just a murmur, are just a wave, just an energetic flow of something, or a little flash between two neurons in your brain that produce a thought. When we practice detachment, we don't dwell and we don't give importance to thoughts. Just like the waves in the ocean, we learn to just let them come, ride, and we let them ride, we let them be the waves, so they just flow, but we don't give them too much importance. Okay, we are just observing them as they come and as they go, because they will go. It is also temporary. So the third way to deal with intrusive thoughts is to rethink the negative. We have this grading system that happens naturally. We start to develop this weird filter of this is good and this is bad thoughts. These are the good thoughts that I want, and these are the bad thoughts which I don't want, because I don't want these thoughts and I don't want to associate myself with these thoughts. There is no good and bad for thoughts. Once we understand that, we rethink the negative, that we have a perception that the thought is negative, and then there's a thought that is positive, but essentially the thought is just a thought, and we attach those extra layers. So we have one layer here, that's the thought, and then we add another layer of our judgment of the thought, and then we think it's negative and we think it's positive according to also what we experience internally. If it is nice and fun and lovely versus something that is shameful, annoying, terrible, scary, and should probably strip away that extra layer of judgment. And the more we do that and rewire that extra layer, we understand that a thought is a thought, and that extra positivity, negativity aspect is something added that we have added in our brain. And I personally found myself, when I experienced intrusive thoughts of very, very terrible images, terrible thoughts I did not want, did not associate myself with, I started welcoming the good thought. I was so afraid of getting those intrusive thoughts because they started coming all of a sudden as probably after having a mental health issue, I started having those intrusive thoughts as hate. And I did not want to deal with those thoughts as hate. So I started doing the opposite and trying to think well of things and and it was fake. It was as a fear mechanism to those negative intrusive thoughts that I experienced. So intrusive thoughts as different fears of illnesses or kind of like thinking bad things about other people around me, even strangers. I started thinking good things about strangers and kind of giving them energy in a weird way, but I don't know them and I don't understand why I'm doing that, because I was like, okay, I'll just do this automatic mantra just so I don't have the negative thought. So sometimes your brain will do weird things like that. And this is just my experience and my own example, because there should be more examples talked about, because a lot of people experience different things and everyone has their own experience, which is very much blessed and amazing. Here's the deal. Number four is you are not alone. You are not alone. Sometimes we get caught up in our head so much and we're in this like hamster wheel, always thinking, and then get all these thoughts all the time. And we don't understand that there's so many other people. And if you walk on the street, you see all these people come and go all the time. And kid you not, every single person has at least one or two or three, at least 10 intrusive thoughts. You are not alone. Everyone has these intrusive thoughts. When you think of one and you experience one, just try to remember that it's normal and other people have them as well. And if they hide and they try to seem all normal, they have them too. And sometimes it's really hard to think of that because you're so immersed in your own experience and your own personal thought process, your own day, the thing that you're doing. Everyone is like, very much individualistic. Everyone is like in their head. But sometimes we forget that other people have also very much experiences that are similar to what we have. And sometimes they're ashamed as well to talk about them. Sometimes if you learn to share about your own experiences, others will actually share theirs as well, because they will feel more at home and they will feel more connected to you and feel more comfortable to share what they're going through. So the more you can start sharing and the more you can start talking about these things, even with yourself in a lonely room, the more you're able to surface and bring light to these thoughts. The fifth way for you to deal with intrusive thoughts is very simple. Let it come. Just let it come. Let it be. Invite it, actually. Do the reverse. So let's say you have a very disgusting thought. It could be very, very dark, very, very socially unacceptable. It could be very fearful. The taboo. All good. Let's say you have that thought and you don't like this thought, okay? We understand we're trying to practice the detachment of what we like, what we don't like. But let's say really you are having so much of this. It's coming a lot. Sometimes when you just see a person, sometimes when you are triggered by a certain thing, an object, a place, an event, a name, a person, what you can do is invite it. So you basically, again, have a dynamic of you vs the thought. So you, again, are not the thought, right? I am kind of reiterating what I mentioned on the previous points. So when you are not the thought, you can have a conversation with the thought, right? Because you are not the thought. The thought is external. It's different. It is just another wave, and it's you. You're surfing. So imagine yourself surfing in your own brain, in your own ocean, and the thoughts are just coming as waves. You have big waves and you have small waves. So the big waves are going to be kind of scary to ride, but the small ones are very sweet, very warm, very nice. So when you learn to have that dialogue, you can learn also to trick the thought and invite it to come. And you converse with it and you just tell it, okay, you want to hate me right now? You want to roast me? You want to think bad things about or have this thought about my child, about doing a certain act of violence? Okay, come, let it come. Come, invite it over. So that's that little animalistic creature or that little chatterbox is coming over to you and you accept it. You basically invite it to come to your house, your brain, your home, your temple, and you don't shove it away. I think it's super important. You don't shove it away, because when you shove it away, you actually amplify the thought and it's going to come more and more. It's going to bother you. It's going to come all the time. And that's why you're like this. You're like, I'm going to therapy. I can't do this. I can't do my own day because I'm having these thoughts. And sometimes we are so afraid of these thoughts. We have this dynamic of chasing, running and chasing. When we run and chase, we are playing a game. And it's a long game. It's a long game. You're always running and the thought is chasing, or vice versa. You're running, you're trying to chase the thought, you're trying to control it. Another important word here in this whole conversation is control. We are trying to control the thoughts, where we need to understand we can't control the thoughts. It is beyond our control. The moment you understand that you cannot control the ocean, you cannot hold the wave with your two hands. Even if you take a whole big net, you'll only get the fish, right? You have the water, it's enormous. So it's kind of similar to what you have in your brain. These are just flows and thoughts. Sure, you can brainwash, you can think of different things, you can train your brain to think differently. Sure, that's a whole other conversation. But when we talk about intrusive thoughts, and sometimes thoughts that we don't necessarily want, or we don't necessarily are very admirable of. So it's not about wanting them, it's about the experience. You know what they say, whatever you focus on expands. So the more you focus on the thought, so you're kind of analyzing your own thought. So your brain is so smart that you have thoughts that are policing the thoughts. So you basically created a police system for your thoughts. Wow. And then you created the police system of the police system. Like, how crazy. So, like, you can see how intricate and how complex the mind is by having those thoughts. So it's layers and layers. And you just know that it's all flowing. It's all wishy-washy. Yeah. We have a thought, we observe it, and we try to judge it, and we feel crappy, and we judge ourselves for judging the thought. And we're like, oh, why did I do that? Oh, shit. I'm trying to practice detachment, or, or whatever. When you're trying to work on these things and you don't want the thought, and you're trying to you are trying by any means to switch and think of something else. You can sometimes do other things like watch TV or talk to a friend or work out or do other things and try to focus on other things just so you don't have these thoughts. Sometimes you will have supplement thoughts. So other thoughts that try to replace the other thoughts. So it's another weird defense mechanism, like I mentioned before, where you are trying to compensate for a thought with another thought. Your brain will do so many things and try to find different ways if it knows that it doesn't want this thought. And you decided that this thought is really bad, and you're focusing on that so much and you're fighting it. You created this whole story about you as a person and how terrible you are and how you feel, and you judge yourself. And this can happen for years, right? Like, people have these thoughts for years and can't get out of the loop. Created a sensitivity, this extra sensitive awareness for these thoughts. your mind is becoming on a fight or flight. It is naturally starting to become like a weird detector, just like the airport. People are coming, it's like beeping or not beeping. And your brain is starting to become that for these thoughts because it has marked these thoughts as unwanted. And when you have this extra sensitivity, you become on fight or flight. And that's also not a very fun state to be in. Why not, instead of fighting, being so sensitive and super aware, hyper aware of these thoughts and trying to fight them, why not do the opposite? And the opposite is very, very pure by accepting the thought, giving it room and telling it, okay, come. I'm inviting you over. There is a part of you, and again, it is not really you, but it is essentially a thought that you have that wants to emerge. And sometimes things just want to float out, and they float from the abyss. They float from the darkness, and it can be very overwhelming, but they float and they want to be seen as well. And this connects to shadow work. And that is a whole other video and conversation. But I'm gonna kind of tiptoe around this, where you hold a flashlight to this thought in the darkness and you basically give it room and you accept it. Instead of shooing it away, you bring it forward into you. And the fact that you're just like, okay, well, you want to come. You want to hate and you want to think these things. You want to hurt people. You want to, I don't know, whatever thought you're having, whatever intrusive thought it is, doesn't matter. Just let it come. Just let it come. Invite it. Do the opposite. Don't shoo it away. Do the complete opposite. Invite it. Try that and see how you feel. Try to experience that. And this is my own experience. This cannot work for everyone. So you can try this, see and experiment with this. Of course, if this is becoming very escalated, again, talk to a professional. I am not a professional, and I'm talking from my own experience and what has worked for me, even with therapy and my own treatment. I like to envision. I like to use visualizations. And sometimes I like to imagine it as something external to me. So it could be even like a bad spirit or like a bad energy or like this bad creature or this like dark little gremlin or whatever. And I imagine that and I'm like, okay, you want to come. Sometimes it can happen even when I'm with a person and I have these very weird and troubling intrusive thoughts, and I get so much afraid, and I think, do other people like understand what I'm having, what's going on in my brain? But I try to kind of practice detachment and be like, no, this is just in your head, don't worry, it's just, it's a flow. And then sometimes I just let it come. I actually invite it and talk to it, and I say, hey, okay, come. You want to come now? Come over. Come on. I want to see you. Come on. I basically invite it over. And, if I see that it's coming, it's a thought that just, flashes through and it stays for a little bit, I basically invite it over and then I don't create resistance. I think that's the key. I don't resist. Don't resist. Do you resist when the wave is coming? It's gonna just push you away anyways, right? In the ocean. I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope to see you soon on the next one.